Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishavan Pranamami Hari Priye Gurubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we're reading Bhagavad Gita. It's the schedule here. On Sunday morning they have Bhagavad Gita class and in systematic order. So we'll read this verse today. Third chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, text number 25. Shakta kamanya vigvangso yata kurvanti bharata kuryad vidvangs tata shaktas Chikeshur loka sangraham Sakta kamanya vidvangso Yata kurvanti bharata Kuryad vidvangs tata saktash Chikeshur loka sangraham Bharata Chikeshur loka sangraham
Karmanya vidvamso Yatha kurvanti bharata Kuryad vidvams tatha shaktas Chikeshur loka sangraham
Chikeshur loka sangraham
Sakta karmani avidvamso Yatha kurvanti bharata
Yata kurvanti bharata Kuryad vidvangs tata saktash
Chikeshur loka sangraham
Chikeshur loka sangraham. Ladies. Sakta kamanya vidvangso Yata kurvanti bharata Kuryad vidvangs tata saktash Chikeshur loka sangraham. Chikesho loka sangraham. Saktaha, being attached. Karmani, in prescribed duties. Avidvangsaha, the ignorant. Yata, as much as. Kuravanti, they do. Bharat, O descendant of Bharat. Kuryat, must do. Vidvan, the learned. Tata, thus. Asaktaha, without attachment. Shakir Shahu, desiring to lead. Lokasangraham, the people in general. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. And in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, a person in Krishna consciousness and a person not in Krishna consciousness are differentiated by different desires. A Krishna conscious person does not do anything which is not conducive to development of Krishna consciousness. He may even act exactly like the ignorant person who is too much attached to material activity. But one is engaged in such activities for the satisfaction of his sense gratification, whereas the other is engaged for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, the Krishna conscious person is required to show the people how to act and how to engage the results of action for the purpose of Krishna consciousness. Translation again. As the ignorant perform their duties with attachment to results, the learned may similarly act, but without attachment for the sake of leading people on the right path. Hare Krishna. So this third chapter is the beginning, you could say, of Krishna's clearing up the doubts of Arjuna. Second chapter, but the second chapter was covering just about everything. Arjuna was somewhat perplexed as to exactly how to apply what Krishna said in the second chapter. And this chapter, Krishna is going to be making many aspects much clearer, especially what to do and what not to do, and so on like that. And in this verse, it's interesting, the purport, in the translation, it just says, perform their duties. Now, pretty much this is a common statement by many Indian people. I just do my duty, and that's it. I'm doing my duty. They're IT specialist or something, whatever, occupation of some kind. But in the actual verse itself, the word is, of course, karma. Karma itself is a word which is used pretty broadly in modern society. And most people's understanding of karma is just action and reaction. You're just getting the results of your work, which is correct up to a point, but there's more to it than that. And in this case, karmani, which is performing one's, directly says, one's prescribed duties, not just one's duties. You may have duties for whatever reason, chosen or otherwise, but prescribed duties infers something quite different. Prescribed duties refers to, according to guna and karma, no doubt, but according to the Vedic system of organizing society, varna ashram society, according to the nature of the living entity, you will be engaged accordingly. And then they would have prescribed duties. In other words, if you look, you'll see a prescribed duties for a brahmana. It's not just because you're a brahmana, I'm doing my duty. One has to follow, according to Guru Shastra Sadhu, what that means. Same with Kshatriya, Vaishya, even Shudra. Everyone has a certain degree direction, clear direction actually, as to what one's actual duty. They're prescribed by the Lord. They're not man-made. They're not whimsically adopted. They are given by the Lord. What is your prescribed duty? Just like a doctor. There are two types of prescribed duty, or svadharma. One is material, one is spiritual. So, spiritually speaking, of course, that's nothing for most people would be a speculation, but for those who are following a spiritual leader, spiritual master, they receive that direction from them. And that's more what Prabhupada's referring to in the purport, the consciousness in which one acts, rather than the activity itself. But to look back a little bit, the prescribed duty of the material world will be according to the standards of Varna and Ashram. And if one doesn't fit within that category of Varna and Ashram, one's not considered to really be on the human platform. Human being, what we hear sometimes, human life begins with religion, but it's not just religion in the sense of a faith or some kind of dogma to accommodate one's material attachments, but it's a process, God-given, dharma to Shukshit Bhagavat Pranitam, given by God to help reform our consciousness, to transform our consciousness from Atmendriya to Krishnendriya, self-centered to God-centered. That's the difference, as Prabhupada says in the purport. A materialistic person is acting for their own sense gratification, be it gross or subtle. Whereas the devotee or Krishna conscious person, everything they do is to fulfill the will of the Lord. If they happen to have a position in society, say for instance of a kshatriya or a leader in society, they may do things which appear to be material, just like anyone else. They may, well, in the Vedic times, nowadays they don't, of course, but in a little bit, but not much. They may perform duties like, for instance, facilitate yagyas. The kshatriya's business, they're called yajaman. That means they're actually responsible for the performance of yajna, sacrifices, not just austerities, but performing literal Vedic sacrifices for the welfare of society. Sometimes people do that, but it's a material motivation. But the real kshatriya, or the real Rajarishi, they will perform also the same thing. We see Bhagavatam, there are several incidences of this. Perhaps the most that comes to mind, anyway, Prithu Maharaj maybe, Ambarish Maharaj. There are others who may have had a little material motivation, like King Prashanibari Shapa. When we look at Ambarish Maharaj, it's a good example because he's, Jiva Tattva. So he's performing yagyas. Prabhupada discusses this actually. I'll read it in a second. He's performing yagyas one after the next. Now why? For the benefit of the people and to show how to do it in a proper way. Not some concoction, not for material purpose, but for the pleasure, yagya vai Vishnu, for the pleasure of Vishnu. Yagya tat karmanaya, lokoyam karma bandhana. Work must be done, but it should be done as a sacrifice or an offering unto Krishna. So they teach how to do that. Vaishyas, they all teach according to their position how to do that prescribed duty, not just for fruitive results, not just because it's our nature, but how to do that. Tasmat sarveshu kalishu mamanusva yuticha. In consciousness of Krishna, all that we do should be in consciousness of Krishna, and understanding how to, step by step, to gradually purify us of this tendency to be somewhat, it's all about me, how I see it, and how I like it, or how I think it should be, or just simply for my pleasure. God is just, if there is a God, just for my order. He's an order supplier. And religion is to also basically for the same selfish purpose. So the pure devotees, they teach people how to transform from that mentality, whatever degree it may be, to the platform of doing everything for the pleasure of Krishna. So they would teach that. And as this verse says, again, let us quickly look. The learned may similarly act for the sake of leading people. Previous verse, Yajya Charity Shrestha Tattadevi Trojana. Whatever standards a great man sets, all the world pursues. They set the standard. Leaders have to set the standard. So when people are on a material platform, in previous ages, this is referring to previous age, of course, in terms of a yajna, then the king would show them how to perform yajnas properly. So they gradually become detached from the fruits of the work and attached to offering those to Krishna, surrendering to Krishna. In Kali Yuga, that type of sacrifice is not recommended. Neither is even deity worship, although it must be performed. It's important, very important. But it's not the Yuga Dharma, it's not the process of self-realization given in the Shastras for Kali Yuga, or to speak of real meditation where people's minds are very disturbed. People are very disturbed, very hard to peacefully sit and meditate. Few exceptions will always be there in every respect, but the general principle is there that in Kali Yuga, everyone know this verse probably, Harinama, Harinama, Harinama eva kevalam. In Kali Yuga, the only way is the chanting of the holy name. This is the yajna. This is the, you could say, the spiritual dharma, Swadharma in Kali Yuga. But even as we were hearing yesterday, I think, even if one's performing prescribed duties, be they materially ordained, in one sense, according to Varna and Ashram, or spiritually given by the spiritual master, nonetheless they should be accompanied. Consciousness of Krishna is mentioned here, the consciousness which we act in. So we may not be conscious of Krishna. Therefore, our acharyas say that we should chant the holy name while we're performing our particular duties. Not only just before and after, that's also mentioned, but specifically while we're doing them. The Prabhupada writes about this on several occasions, other acharyas also. Why? Well, that's the method in this age of Kali of remembering Krishna. We may say, well, I'm still not remembering Krishna, but you're remembering to chant. So that's one sense. It may not be pure, it may not be mature, but it's the beginning, or not even the beginning, but it's a stage of remembering Krishna. We're just chanting the holy name while we bathe, while we walk, while we dig the garden, while we cook, whatever, wherever and whenever we can, we chant the holy name of Krishna. That is the prescribed duty. I'm trying to get round to what I wanted to talk to, as you may have kind of concluded. So, Jai, Hari Bol. We're going to read something from Shastras. Kindly lend me your ears. This is from the Skanda Purana. So as we mentioned just now, leaders, they teach how to perform sacrifice and how to do everything as a sacrifice to Vishnu. Now, you won't find many leaders, if any, and when we're talking leaders here, we mean, executive leaders of society, presidents, kings, prime ministers, whatever they are, supposed to be. Incessant, this is from the Skanda Puranas. It's the duty, the first duty practically of a king, is to facilitate the occupational duties of others. So performance of sacrifice is an inseparable aspect of performing one's duty, whatever age it's in. Incessant kirtan, means constant kirtan of the names of Sri Vishnu, is the only means to conquer the six senses and stop the cycle of birth and death in material existence. Harinam is the root of all spiritual knowledge and the destroyer of the 6 enemies of the mind. So conquering the 6 senses means pretty simple, isn't it? What are the 6 senses? 6 senses. What are they? Keep going. Pardon? You can word it differently. Sense of sight. Pardon? The sense of, sorry, I couldn't hear. The sense of hearing. We smelt the rose. Touch. We're all very touchy. What else? Huh? Cakes? What was that?
Taste.
Huh? Taste. Oh, cakes. Yeah, taste. Same thing. Taste and cakes, the same thing. Taste. That's 5, isn't it? Smell, sight, hearing, touching and tasting. And the other one? The mind, huh? The mind. 6 senses will include the mind, Krishna said. The 6 senses that include the mind. They begin to struggle with these, trying to cope with those 6 senses. Always some challenge there. And the 6 enemies, well, you've got it. No, you don't. What are the 6 enemies? Some of you know, don't speak. Those who know, don't speak. Is that right? Isn't that what Prabhupada said? Those who know should not speak. Is that right?
Those who know do.
Oh, they do? Okay. I got it wrong. That's why I'm speaking a lot. I better be quiet. Everybody knows. Everyone's got a nose. I know that much. At least at the moment. I'm not looking closely over there, but I guess they've got noses.
Don't want to say and get into trouble with this.
Ah, poke your nose in. Anyway, no. So you may know, but don't kind of like speak up. Who would like to give us the six enemies, the 6 enemies of the mind? Someone like to put their hand up and tell us? Don't tell us and then put your hand up. Put your hand up first. Who'd like to tell us? Or who'd like to put their hand up? Anyone want to put their hands up? You have to tell us what the enemies are if you do that. Who knows? Come on, I'm sure you know it. Someone knows it. Govinda. Anyone else know? Yeah, keep your hand down. Spoil. Come on. Speak. Lust. Anger. Greed. Pardon? Illusion. Huh? Envy. And? Huh? One more. That's 5. Madness. Oh, we haven't got time to get into the details of those, obviously. But these are probably not seen exactly as enemies. I mean, sometimes, yes, people are very disturbed when they get carried away by anger. A lot of people, I don't know most, but I have this problem with anger. You hear that quite commonly. Amongst devotees also. Mostly? Huh? Many? I'm sitting with my enemies here, huh? Or angry people.
Hunger.
Huh?
Hunger.
Hunger. Oh, I said anger, not hunger. Definitely amongst the devotees, they seem to suffer from hunger all the time. Day and night, you catch them eating noodles at 11:30 at night down there. I was watching last night. Huh? 2 times.
2 types of noodles.
And, yeah, 2 types of noodles. I was watching them last night. That was all there was, just 2 types of noodles. No wonder you get so fat. 11:30 at night eating noodles. I don't know if it's any different than eating rice, I'm not sure. Similar effect at last thing at night. And you go to sleep, you lie down after that. You're definitely going to get a podgy belly. No doubt about that. And if you have a problem with things like diabetes and things like that, it's a good way to help bring it on. It's not caused by sugar, it's caused by wrong eating habits if it's not inherent. So how do we get onto that? I don't know. Anger. Now you're getting angry with me. Trying to talk against your pleasure. Anger. So most people, and we know from Bhagavad Gita the causes of anger. Contemplating the objects of the senses when they're not fulfilled, you can become angry. It may be gross or it may be subtle, but you can become angry if you don't get what you want. Common. Children, no responsibility, they can't control it, they just automatically throw a tantrum. But adults do too in different ways. Lust for many people is not necessarily seen as an enemy, but for many it is, because it gets into real trouble. Lots of negative responses are there for uncontrolled sex desire, if you want to just use that as an example. Lust can be used in many areas, not just in sex, but it's usually referred to sex life. You can't control your lust, you get into trouble. People don't know that by uncontrolled sex life we're just causing our own future suffering. But even now, they in this lifetime, they can understand something. Greed. Well, greed's a big topic in the world in many ways, isn't it? We're all greedy, but it's just a different degree of greed. But there's a lot of talk about greed and how the leaders are greedy and the businessmen are greedy, and isn't it? They're exploiting everyone. Quite common. People think greed is not looked at as a very favourable terminology. Bewilderment or illusion. Well, you can get that experience, I suppose, in your day-to-day life, relatively speaking, but most people are not aware of the all-pervasiveness of illusion or maya. They're not really aware of it. It's moha. They're not so much aware that we're all in illusion. There's illusion, there's kind of illusion in the illusion. But they're not aware that we're all in that illusion, that we're all stuck in a ball and we don't know anything outside the ball, so we think that's the truth. But there's a truth outside the ball, but we don't know. And we don't accept it, even if somebody outside the ball tells us about it. We don't accept it. So we're in illusion about many things, pretty much everything. We're in illusion about our identity, the nature of God, the causes of happiness and distress, maybe a little bit of an understanding there. But, pretty much everything we're not really aware of, even the material things we perceive. And we don't have a clear picture of how things work. We're in illusion about so many things. About ourselves, we think we're something special. So many illusions out there. We think this material world maybe is all in all. That spirit is different types of illusions out there. Intoxication or madness. People are very attracted to this. They become maddened by this desire for gambling, intoxication, and what have you, carried away. And envy, which is basically the underlying enemy, from which all the other enemies, kind of take your course. Envy is the root. It's not money. They have a song. Money is the root of all evil. But it's not. Misuse of money. But this whole verse is to show us how to properly use money and use everything, our time, our senses, our character, our qualities, everything, in a beneficial way. So what is envy? Envy is really the root, is really the biggest one. Others appear bigger, but because of envy, the others are manifesting, basically. So what do we mean when we say that? Envy. You ever feel envious? I mean, jealousy is kind of perhaps a little milder aspect of the same basic direction, anyway. It may not be so all-pervasive, it may not be so persistent, it may not be so heavy, but it's the same kind of thing. So what does envy mean?
I'm not in the center.
You're not in the center?
of everything.
You're not, or you are?
Not.
You're not. Why not?
Envious that I should be always in the center.
The what should be?
I'm envious that I should always be
Ah, thank you. Yes. We're envious, we want attention from others. We think we deserve it. We see others who are in the center, we don't like it. We try to, bring them down or criticize or something. Someone else has got something which, I want. And of course that may not be bad if we take the right process to try to achieve it. But we want to usurp it. Even that's why Prabhupada says meat eating comes under the category of envy. Because we want to eat the body of the animal. It's not something I want. I don't care. I'll kill them to get it. Envy is a bit, aggressive like that. Mind comes with all these things about that person or whatever, both to justify your actions and to diminish their eligibility or whatever, or their rights to have that. Tear them down, bring them down. But it's based on this principle of seeing oneself in the center. And it has its root beyond the material world. The very reason for the living entity to be under the influence of Maya is the envy of the Supreme Person being in the center. So that transformation here is given in this verse from the Skanda Purana. Incessant kirtan, incessant chanting of the names of Sri Vishnu. So this is one of the reasons why Jiva Goswami mentions this, that we chant the holy name of the Lord while we do other things, even in devotional service, because this helps to bring down the false ego of seeing ourselves as the doer, of seeing ourselves in the center. It helps to diminish that. It's not going to happen on the spot, generally. Nothing's impossible with me. But if we practice this, and we'll start to see things a little differently. There are many other angles of that, but we'll carry on. This is one of my favorites. This was a question which was asked of disciples of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj. And as I've mentioned a few times, that in a few weeks' time, now Singeshwar Prabhu is with us today, and Sri Gauranga Prabhu is with us today, and I don't know if Kalesh is here or not. There he is. And Shiva Chaitanya is here, and so many of senior devotees are here, mostly from here, but from other countries like New Zealand, Australia, Singapore, and maybe a few other places. But in a few weeks' time, and I don't know the date, it's different in different countries, but it's the 150th anniversary of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj's appearance in the world. So if you've read GBC's directive on this, you're supposed to put on some gorgeous arrangements to honor that occasion and try to advertise it, bring people in. Because people don't know what is Acharya, they don't know what is a spiritual leader. Therefore, they're just doing this and that, rituals and this and that. It's something. It's not getting us out of this world. The Acharya is one who guides us out of this world. So they need to know. So it's an opportunity. Put on some programs, at least we should try to glorify His divine grace on that every day, but especially on that occasion. Think about it and try to do something. There's only a few weeks left. I don't know how many. 3 or 4, I think. Do you know the date? 29th in Malaysia. 29th. February 29th. That's just 25 days away then. Not long, 3 or 4 weeks only. You have to start planning. Doesn't make any difference. You have to start planning. Thursday, Friday, every day. You can do weekend also. Something public next weekend or something. Maybe you're doing something else then, I don't know. But find some way of making it a little bit more than just another day where we sit and talk about it. So this is a question which was asked of him. Should the fire of Krishna Sankirtan, the constant chant, should not necessarily constant, but the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, should the fire burn continuously in the Mass? It's not a literal fire, but you might think the lamp, you have to keep the lamp burning continuously. That's what Maharaj said. This is probably what you would infer from what I'm saying, probably. You think, what did I learn from the class? Maharaj said I have to keep a lamp burning constantly. I remember. That's the only thing I can remember. That may well be the case. But that's not what it means. And his comment on this question: unless the blazing fire of Sankirtan, which cleanses the mirror of the heart, burns continuously, various anarthas, and I assume everyone knows what anartha is. Maybe there's some newcomers, I don't see any, but there might be somewhere out there. What is an anartha?
Please explain.
Pardon?
Please explain.
Huh?
Please explain.
That's not what it means. Tell me what it means. That's my question. Perfect questions, perfect questions. The book's called Perfect Questions, Perfect Answers. No? Perfect questions, perfect questions. What's an anartha? Impediment, unwanted. Anything else? What's an artha? Artha. I mean, pronunciation may not be good, but try to get the point. What's artha? Huh?
Development.
Can be seen as economic development. It can also be.
Anything like which is not which is
Artha. I'm talking of artha. Artha, not anartha. Artha. What's artha?
Artha is desirable for
Desirable. Yeah, something which is of needed. Artha. Something necessary, something needed. You need to eat. Eating is not an anartha. Even if you do eat at 11:30 at night, 2 plates of noodles, it may become anartha, but in of itself it doesn't have to be. If you haven't eaten anything for 3 weeks, you can do that. So anartha means the opposite, isn't it? That which you don't need. Something unnecessary, something, you can say it may be an obstacle, but everything can be an obstacle in one sense. But anartha, you don't need it. You don't need it. Unnecessary. And it's not just things. The biggest problem is, in the mind. Huh? How many desires do we, meditate on or embrace within our consciousness, they may not even just be gross material desires. It may be negative thoughts or, false aspirations to attain a position or something. With all kinds of different forms of prestige and so on. So they're anarthas. They're not really. We may think they're necessary, but they're not necessary. They're unneeded, they're unwanted, and they do become an obstacle if we embrace them. In of themselves, they're not an obstacle, but if we embrace them, they become an obstacle. They may come, as we see in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna said, "Poyamanam achala pratishtam." So these desires may come into our mind constantly, practically speaking. They never stop. But it's just a matter of whether we embrace them or not, whether we hold on to them, Whether we can continually feed those desires mentally, and hopefully not physically, but even mentally. They get stronger and stronger, and eventually they'll overwhelm us. Dangerous. So unless the blazing fire of Sankirtan, it cleanses the heart of all these things, you see. Burns continuously various anarthas, and here now we're going to get into some details which we only briefly touched on. But he says, such as, these are interesting, differences of opinion. That's one. Fault finding, quite easy. Deceit, duplicity, hypocrisy. Envy and hatred will pollute our hearts. So if you see any of those things, irking us or giving us, we have those tendencies. Probably all of us got to some degree. As a result, we will find the blazing fire of material existence progressively increasing. So how are we to extinguish that? Samsara dharma nalalita loka, how to extinguish that fire? He's saying here, by continuously chanting the holy name. Otherwise the tendency is that these things will come up. Fault finding, deceit. These are the internal things, some of them. Only some. Such as, it's not all inclusive. It's such as. When we say differences of opinion, how many times do we argue over useless stuff? Irrelevant stuff sometimes. Just to establish our perspective on a subject matter which is relative. It means arguing over relativities. Or, opinions are always going to be there as long as conditioned soul. But to try to establish it, I'm right, my perspective is right, your perspective is wrong, it's going to be there until one sees things from Krishna's perspective. Differences of opinion, again, like everything, is not necessarily a wrong or an anartha, but when it's based upon our own illusory perception, then it becomes an anartha. If it's based upon, generally speaking, different ways of serving Krishna, then it's not necessarily an anartha, it's another thing. Same with all of these, actually, fault finding, not envy, maybe, but to some extent the others can also be seen from different angles. But here we're referring to the tendency to see them with ourselves in the center. Unless the fire of Krishna's Sankirtan burns continuously, both in the mouth and in the heart, we will neither be able to uproot material life nor achieve love of God. What can you say? These are his words, not ours. This is the words of the Acharya. We will not be able to uproot material life nor achieve love of God. The fire of Sankirtan has the power to overcome the desire for material enjoyment and burn to ashes karma, jnana, yoga and material vratas and austerities. Wow. What's this? Breakfast has arrived. Oh, wonderful. Where are the books? Where are the books?
Oh, downstairs, bringing it up.
Are you bringing up? You need help?
Okay, I'll take Neela Madhava and Prabhala with me.
Taking them with you, okay? Four.
I'll be back.
Hare Krishna. So this we see in the Bhagavad Gita also. What's that verse? Is it in the third chapter? Third chapter, I think it is actually, I'm not sure. Let's see. Yes, it will be. Because later on in this chapter we'll see Arjuna. The whole chapter, the third chapter, is mostly focused on the correct performance of actual duty. So then Arjuna asked this very interesting question. He says to Krishna, what is what by what? Not what. By what is one what's the cause of that one is impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force? What causes a man to act sinfully, almost by force? Huh? And you probably know the answer, kama esha, krodha esha, rajaguna, samudbhava, etc. But this question is usually taken to mean, what forces me to drink liquor? What forces me to have sex, outside of the proper sexual guidelines? What forces me to, eat 2 plates of at 11:30 at night? Or whatever it is, What is it? That's probably most people would think, some kind of, you can extremes where you indulge in really illicit sex. You know it's wrong, but can't control it. But that's not the thrust here. That's certainly related to it, no doubt. The real thrust is here, and if we look back, we'll see what was the problem. Krishna said, what's your problem, Arjuna? What's your problem? Because he was refusing, or wanted to, perform his prescribed duty. Nothing to do with, I want to go to the brothel, or I want to go to the pub, or anything like that. Everything was based upon Arjuna's rejection of his duty. And this third chapter deals with this subject almost exclusively, the performance of proper duty. So when he asked this question, why would he suddenly bring in something completely out of the box? There's no mention of it. As if he's suddenly feeling lusty desires to, go and grab a woman somewhere. That's not the question. He's referring here to not performing one's duty. It's sinful not to perform one's duty. It's not just your choice. It's sinful. So he's saying, what is it that causes one to act sinfully or reject one's own occupation, even though, you may know it's wrong, but still there's some force which pushes us like that. There's so many forces, and for most devotees, it's a battle. It's a battle. We're always thinking of something else to do, some justification, dreaming it's better over there. So it's Krishna says it's lust, it's a form of lust. We're conquered by the idea that you can enjoy something here or there or whatever. Because we're seeing it from our own perspective. We're not thinking, well, what does Krishna want me to do? We say that, but we don't mean it. How do we know what Krishna wants us to do? That's like another topic. But then that goes on, and Krishna says how you conquer this lust. First of all, he explains how it is, how we're covered by lust. And then he says how we conquer it. Lust covers every aspect of our lives. Then he says, therefore, Arjuna, in the very beginning, curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Regulate the senses according to Shastra conjunction. He describes the various senses. Maybe just the verse. Or maybe it's in the next chapter. Perhaps that goes on to the next chapter. I can't remember. But yeah, it's a similar topic. As a blazing fire turns firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activity. And here we see Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj has said, where is it? Maybe somewhere. Anyway, we just heard describing this is the real knowledge in one sense, is the performance of Sankirtan. Performance of Sankirtan will burn to ashes the reactions to material activity. The fire of Sankirtan is the power to overcome the desire for material enjoyment and burn to ashes karma, jnana, yoga, and material vratas and austerity. All these are, if they're done in a gradual process towards the ultimate goal, they may be like stepping stones. But ultimately, they're not the goal. And oftentimes we become attached to the means rather than the objective goal. There can be deviations. So it will burn any desire, separatist desire for any of these particular practices. Only fools will accept these ulterior practices as the goal of life. Intelligent persons, however, will worship Mahaprabhu by performing the sacrifice of Sankirtan, as we heard yesterday. Krishna Vanam Trisha Krishnam Sango Pangashta Parshadam. Intelligent persons perform the Sankirtan. Now, I wish we had more time, but we don't. I'll just finish off with, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Prithu Maharaj and Ambarish Maharaj. This one is referring to King Prashini Bahishat, who was another king who was performing regular sacrifices, fire sacrifices, homa yagyas, all over the place, with the intention of, creating material auspiciousness, bring rain, get benefits, material and so on. So he went overboard, because most of these yagyas in previous ages involved animal killing, sacrificing him in the fire. But he went overboard. Everything in overboard, it may be okay, but when we overdo it, even eating, as I said, when we eat too much, it becomes lust. But when you're young, it's natural you may eat too much. Probably even said one time, it was in Dallas, one probably been talking about eating too much. And one little boy, Gurukul boy, said, Srila Prabhupada, I'll come to it. And then Prabhupada said, well, for a young man to eat too much is not bad. But for an old man to eat too much is very bad. So then one old boy said, Srila Prabhupada, is Tamal Krishna young or old? So you have to tell you. But the point is, whatever age we're on, we should try not to eat more than we need. You may be digested, you may be a little bit, passionate or something. But try not to eat too much, that was the idea. So anyway, he went overboard. Too much eating, too much yagya. You can't have too much chanting, by the way. Why not? You have too much yogi, too many. Again, everything is depending a little on consciousness, but no limits. You can Kirtaniya Siddhahari is. I was reading yesterday. I don't know where to read, but and this is our mantra. This is our objective mantra. I think it was Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj was saying. Our mantra is Kirtaniya Siddhahari. Always chant the holy name. Always. Constantly. But other things, just moderation. Even drinking too much water is not good. Everything in moderation. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, doesn't he? One who's moderate, one who's regulated, one who's in their eating and sleeping, recreation, work, everything, can conquer over the miseries of material existence. So knowing balance there. So aside from that, Narada Muni came on the scene and told me, you're going overboard, mate. Just like Dhruva Maharaja, he went overboard killing the yakshas. Brahma said, stop. Too much. You're overdoing it. Over-endeavoring for material things. One of the obstacles. So then he informed him of the reaction for overdoing it. You're going to be the sufferer. Anyway, one of those purports in that chapter, Prabhupada takes the lesson to be learned in a positive way. The Krishna conscious movement has started performing Sankirtan Yajna in different places, and it has been experienced that wherever Sankirtan Yajna is performed, many thousands of people gather and take part in it. We don't see that so much nowadays. In the early years it was novel, and people never heard it, saw, and they would gather around. But now people hear it, but they don't maybe gather around. Imperceptible, that means you can't see it. Auspiciousness achieved in this connection should be continued all over the world. The members of the Krishna consciousness movement should perform Sankirtan Yajnas one after another. So much so that all the people of the world will either jokingly or seriously chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, and thus they will derive the benefit of cleansing the heart. The holy name of the Lord is so powerful that whether it is chanted jokingly or seriously, the effect of vibrating this transcendental sound will be equally distributed. And that is the all-pervasive aspect or universal aspect of the Sankirtan movement. Everyone gets some benefit, even non-humans. Every living entity gets some benefit from chanting, and will gradually free us of this seeing ourselves in the center as the enjoyer, as the controller, as the proprietor, etc. These basic diseased condition of life in this world that we're in, but because everyone else is in the same condition, we don't see it as a disease, we see it as a normal, within reason. Okay, well we have to finish there. Time and tide wait for no man. Life has to go on. I hope there's noodles for breakfast. I'm still starving from last night's feast.
Today is idli and dosa.
Khichdi and dosa? Idli and dosa?
No noodles.
No noodles? What are they going to eat? I want roti canai. Roti canai. Where's the roti? Health food. Nobody's prepared it for our guests yet. You should have durian and roti canai for breakfast. And nasi lemak. Huh? Did you? Oh, God. Missed it. We were fasting. They didn't get it. They were most of them were fasting. They never got it. Come on, you're supposed to be the host. You have to feed the local cuisine to your guests. Go and get 100 durians right now. Get someone out there making roti canai, really. With some nice hot sambar or something. Huh? That will make sure there'll be no one here for the Kirtan Sangha. They'll either be in bed or at the doctor, one or the other. Or in hospital. Is that a hospital over the road? Is that a hospital? I think they made that for us. They knew that. These people are going to, the way they eat, they're going to end up here pretty soon. Huh? One line. Hare Krishna, the Hare Krishna ward. Hare Krishna ward. Hare Krishna. Anyway, on we go. Onward, Krishna soldiers. Sankirtan we go. There was a song. Onward, Christian soldiers. As a conquest to kill everyone who doesn't become a Christian. Not a very nice idea. We want to change the consciousness through kirtan. Please join us. What time is it starting? 10? 10-ish. 10-ish. Okay, get cracking. Get stuck into your roti chennais quick before they're all gone. They might be gone already because, the serious devotees are already out there taking breakfast. Sometimes like that. New Govardhan, where's Sham? It can be like that in New Govardhan. If you stay for class, there's nothing left. Right? There's only like dal and rice left, nothing else. The woofers have woofed it all up. Oh, Shiva Chaitanya, what are you going to do? This is your fault. You're not thinking about, how to entertain your guests. There's nothing like roti chennai for breakfast, let's face it. Is there? Huh? I don't even know what it is, Master. Pardon?
He cares for the devotees.
He cares for them. He does. He does. Huh? Idli. Idli is the best breakfast, okay. He's too much in the mode of goodness. That's why there's nobody here. If you want some people to stay, you've got to cater to their consciousness, The temple will be full if you have roti chennai and sambar every morning with durian. We need to build extra bedrooms up there. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Prema.